Hello and welcome to a very special Tuesday edition of Pod Save the Queen. And I apologize for this being out 2 days late, but yesterday a lot of snow to shovel, and the day before where I was supposed to do it was the Super Bowl, so that sort of played into things. But anywho, enough of that. Some of the shows. So I'm going to talk about 3 shows here again. 2 of which I already talked about, and one that is incredibly funny. Well, all of them are really funny in their own ways. Starting with Catastrophe. Now, this is a new comedy show on Channel 4 that stars American Rob Delaney and the Irish woman of Sharon Horgan. I believe is how you say it. It's hard when they talk with their accents and stuff, and it's like, wait, what? But yeah, and this is loosely based, like, on their relationships with their significant others. But the show, oh my gosh, is hilarious. I find myself relating too much at times with Rob Delaney's character. But it's a brilliant show anyways. Like, besides the fact that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can relate to that. But the premise is that Rob plays a guy named Rob who is going through, or who is traveling on business to London, and he meets Sharon's character, Sharon. They play their same name, first names, but the surnames are different. And so they have a 6-night stand. This is their wording, not mine. But they like have this little tryst that lasts for like 6 days, and then he flies back, and 28 days later he gets a phone call saying, "Rob, I'm pregnant," from Sarah, and this is Sharon obviously saying that. And so he flies back to be with her and to try to form a relationship because of his past dad, of his dad not being there for him. So he's like, oh, I'm going to be there for my kid if she's deciding to have it, but it's just, you would think that would be the most awkward part of this, but it just gets more and more awkward as you go along. It airs every Monday on Channel 4, and it's one of those that I'm like, oh yes, this is just great. I love this show. And it's from the concept to everything, it's just, yes, good, give me more. And as I mentioned before, it's loosely based like on each of their relationships. The long distance one was Rob with his wife. They spent, like, I think the first, I forget how many years he said, like so many years, like she lived in New York, he lived in California. It's already like, coast to coast relationship. And then the surprise pregnancy was Sharon's with her husband. Like, they were just like, oh hey, surprise, and then all that. But yeah, so that's Catastrophe. I strongly recommend you watch this show. It is really funny. And I think this is Rob's first show that he's done too. So that's like a big, like, it's shocking how good it is for his first show to me. But still, go watch it. It's 2 thumbs up. The next show is from Top Gear. This is the 2nd episode of Top Gear Series 22, and holy crap, Australia is huge. Because in this episode they took 3 cars and they had to go to the Australian outback, drive from, I think, the town of Darwin down to where they were going, and and wrangle up cattle, 4,000 cattle on a 3.2 million acre farm. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. Yeah. Basically, and how they put this is this farm is the size of southwest London or southwest England, to put it on the scale and all that. And it was just like watching them do this. I'm like, wow, there's a lot. And they obviously they did this after the Patagonia special. You could see them because they make fun of that fact in the way Top Gear will, because when they first get there, they're like, "Oh no!" and they make fun of their license plates. Like one of them had CC for, as they put, for Charles and Camilla, and then other ones like the other one was like BMW 001. They're like, "Oh yeah, well that could just be," like, and they misconstrue how easily license plates can be misconstrued. No, I'm not taking sides in here. I'm just pointing this out, even though I did find it hilarious, and because they did it from that. And it was beautiful to see, because they needed help at the end when they had to wrangle the cattle up there. And so I guess the way that they do it in Australia, or at least on this farm, is they get little, like, small helicopters, like it's like maybe a 2-person helicopter, and they just get down and brrr, and like the wind from the rotors like scares the cattle. And I guess Jeremy Clarkson even said that they will sometimes nudge the cattle with the landing bits. And so I'm like, wow, that is skill. That's a different type of skill set you need to do that. And then finally, the last show I'm going to talk about is, sort of appropriately enough, is The Last Leg. Now, I mentioned this show yesterday, I believe, yeah, I did. I did not mean for that to happen, but whatever. I talked a little bit about this yesterday when we were talking on What Else Is On, when we were talking about the Kingsmen, and the controversy around their actors, their choice for actor to play the assassin that's a double leg amputee. And so I'm not going to get too much into that, but the big draw with that was they had Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg on to try to convince Alex Brooker, who's one of the co-hosts, to get to vote in the next general election. Not just vote, not even like vote for the Lib Dems, which he is a member of, the Liberal Democratic Party, but just to vote, period, in the election. And it was funny. They did it in very much the Last Leg approach, where Alex had a little buzzer, like the Office Max easy button buzzer sort of deal. Every time he hit it, it would just say, it would say bullshit. And so it's just one of those things, like, yeah, you're watching this and it's, wow. And I had one takeaway from this. And I do this, I know I do this frequently, but it's because I really love British TV, and I would love to see that style brought over here. Because where, yeah, we get these scripted comedies, but it seems like everyone talks about the reality shows, and there are no panel shows out there like that you see over in Britain here at all. There's no. The closest thing I think we might have, and even that's not even it. It would be At Midnight, but that's not it, because that's a satirical game show, if anything. So it's the closest thing that it could be related to is Never Mind the Buzzcocks or 8 out of 10 Cats for internet stuff. But this was interesting because the fact they had Nick Clegg on there, and you could see him, he let his hair down in a manner of speaking. Like, he relaxed and stuff like this. Where if we had this at all in America, all the questions, all the bits, everything about any presidential candidate, from the Republicans or Democrats, I think some of the other ones, like the third party ones, might be more up for it. But it would be like, oh, we got to review every single thing and just blah, 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 and make it to where you have a show where, like I'm going to do a hypothetical here. Last Leg comes to America. It's on, and it's a full-on American version, and it is on Comedy Central. And they're going to do the same exact format, just in America. You get the next presidential candidate, like I'm just going to say hypothetically. I'm not really super political with any of this stuff, but let's just say for the Democrats, it's Joe Biden. Now, again, I'm not saying, I'm just throwing out a name here because it's like he's one of them that I would figure he would be running for next year. And so they go, and he comes on, and he announces, and he's sitting there trying to convince one of the comedians who said, I'm not going to vote in the next election because, you know, like with whatever reason, like because basically you're voting for two sides of the same coin or whatever. And he would come on, and you'd have so many people, like the press, like their little, I don't want to say puppets, but the people behind them that, like, the behind the scenes guys are like, okay, you can only ask this question, this question, this question, this question. Do not touch here. Do not touch here. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. But it's like if we had that, their show, it would just be, all right, they might have that, but it's, all right, we're going to have fun. Let's have some fun out here and show the normal people that you are human. Because there is that little bit of air of, I don't want to say roboticism, but like non-genuineness because of the fact that you only see what their PR people want you to see. Where it seems like over in the UK, it's balls out. It's just, you know, like, oh, you're doing a tour of a factory and you did something stupid, or you're standing there and your finger is pointed out like this to where it looks like you have a small willy. Well, all right, we're gonna unleash all on you, sort of deal. So that's where I want to see this over here in America. Not just even like the British, like import the exact same British show, but a whole new take on the last like on with American people, like American comedians, just having at it. But that's just me. Well, this has been Pod Save the Queen. I'm Gregor Sprague. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at ElseNerds. That's ELSENERDS on the Twitter. You can follow our group on Facebook as well. We have a group page where you can post stuff to us that we might not know about, we might have missed, at facebook.elsenerds.com. And you can follow us, or you can subscribe right here if you're watching this somewhere else, which, hey, I welcome that. Or you're listening to this to an audio version that I will sometime get done at elsenerds.com. That takes you right to our YouTube page. And you can find me typically doing Pod Save the Queen on Sundays at about 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here. And yeah, that about wraps it up here for us. So until next time, I will see you then.